Hey, Joel, thank you so much for being here. Um, we want to share with many people about you. When did you arrive at Resurrection Lutheran Church here in Portland?
And so I started my new call at Resurrection on March 1st,
Wow,
moving here from Denver, Colorado.
excellent. You came with your family.
Yep, my wife Angela and our two kids, Sam, who's 8, and Micah, who will be turning 2 in September.
Excellent. Well, we have been talking many things today, and I really appreciate your time. I love this experience that you had many years ago, connected with your decision to become a pastor, in which, as I understood, you moved from condescendence or understanding the mission with this kind of condescendence to people into more a mutual engagement, mutual accompaniment model about the mission with the relationship at the center. Could you tell us more about that experience for all of us?
Absolutely. And so my background was growing up here in Southwest Portland in a predominantly white middle class community. And when I graduated from college, I took a job as a youth director in a Lutheran congregation in Northern California, also working with predominantly white middle class kids. And one of the ministries of this church was to take kids on mission trips to Tijuana, Mexico every spring break.
To Tijuana.
To Tijuana, right on the border of San Diego. And for many of those kids, it was the first time that they would cross the border and experience different lifestyle than what they were accustomed to. And for myself and others, we began to recognize after a year or two of doing these trips that this was very much a form of spiritual tourism or poverty tourism, where you would go and you would see something, but then you would leave and just go back, not really recognizing your own story, your own place, but would be looking down upon or making any type of measurement of yourself versus what they saw in others. After a couple of years of doing these trips, I began to talk with the pastor I was working with about shifting that model and saying I'd felt uncomfortable, but one of the things that I needed to do was go and live in Tijuana, which was a pretty radical thing to say. But I asked for 6 weeks off, and I went and I lived with the pastors and other people in the community in Tijuana. And coming back from that 6-week experience of developing incredible relationships with people, my heart was changed. And the people I was working with said, let's not just end these trips, let's transform them. And so we began, rather than calling them mission trips, we called them pilgrimage trips. Pilgrimages.
In which you are transformed as well.
Right. An opportunity to meet our siblings in Christ, where God is transforming us together, is what we would talk about. And so instead of building houses and spending a week there, we would take students and adults, and they would spend time in the houses eating meals with people and spending time hearing stories and sharing their own stories in ways that their lives were changed. Over time, that challenged many of the people that we were invested with in what it meant to travel, but it changed the opportunities we also had coming back to Northern California. And some of the adults in particular began asking questions around how do we form these types of relationships with people in our communities. And we began to be invested with students in 2010 and 11 and 12 that were going through the DACA application process. And began to hear their stories of what it was like to live in the United States, and then progressed to hearing stories about people that were threatened by the immigration process. And we didn't look down, but we began to have an opportunity to walk alongside, to know some of the shared pain, to live with them, rather than just asking, what can we do for someone? And that
the shared pain.
And it became a deeply transformational opportunity to see ourselves in a different light and inhabit a different story in our context.
Oh, thank you. I know that, and you told me more, but people who want to know Pastor Joel, please call him or reach to him at Resurrection. And you are a blessing. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for allowing us to join you as well in mutual support. And we know that you have talked with Pastor Tyler Bean Kelly, the dean of the in your cluster, and all your colleagues. So thank you for coming and accepting this call.
Thanks, Juan Carlos. It's good to be with you today, and good to be with the Oregon Synod.